Oh, welcome, man. God is us back, man. We are back. Hope everybody had a very good weekend. Hope you're having a very good start to the week. How you doing, Miss Murphy? Let me tell you, you a troublemaker. You are a troublemaker. All right. I was going to do NBA tonight, but I'm going to wait till Thursday to do that because we do have the play-in games that are starting out. You have the Western Conference play-in games tonight. Currently, you have Pelicans and Lakers playing right now, and then Kings and Warriors will be the late game. And then tomorrow you will have the Eastern Conference play-in game. So what we're going to do on Thursdays, break down those play-in games. It will be I think it's Thursday. No, it's Friday. Yeah, we will break down the results of those playoff playing games on Thursday. But tonight we're going to focus in on the NFL draft. Last week I did a show highlighting some of the team needs, possible directions the teams may take in the draft, and what we're going to do is have a little fun tonight. It's not going to be a long show, but we will. What's going on, Tricks? We will be doing a simulated mock draft. Hold on, let me kind of get it together, y'all. Let me kind of get it together. Okay, because I found me a draft simulator. And what I wanted to do, what we did kind of like last week, continuation of that, kind of look forward to this mock draft, see who's going where, who could possibly go where. I will not be doing trades in this particular mock draft. We may do a show next week where I kind of include possible trades that could go down. In regards to the draft, we'll talk about that a little bit tonight, but I just want to kind of get into it, get into the material, and get on about my day. All right, so let me go back over here. Matter of fact, let me just do this. Yeah, that works a whole lot better. Hopefully, you guys can see it. And I need to just make it just a tad bit bigger. Maybe that's too big. Okay. Yeah, that's big enough. All right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go through the mock draft. I'm gonna try to do 2 rounds. We'll see how it kind of goes. Like I said, next week we'll probably do another round of mock draft before the actual draft, which is next weekend, starting on Friday. We'll be doing another mock draft with it trades included. We'll kind of talk about that tonight once again, but let's kind of get into it. Let's go ahead and get this draft. Okay, hold on. Let's get the draft started. All right. Oh man, come on, not now. I hate Google Chrome. Give me a sec. All right, I'm back. I hate StreamYard. I hate StreamYard. All right, let me get it set back up here. Give me a sec. Y'all can see what's going on. Share screen. All right, so do it slow. All right, let's go to the draft room. Let's gotta get this show started. Apologize for the technical delays. Of course it is. Yes, it's Miss Murph. Miss Murph. She knows what I'm talking about. All right, so that's what you get for having your shit just open all goddamn day. Sometimes. Hey. Anyways, let's go ahead and get this draft started. I'm on the clock. We'll be picking for all teams. So first up are the Chicago Bears, presumably probably the easiest pick of the draft. Let's go ahead and just draft Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Going to be the presumed number one pick. It will take a miracle. It will take a miracle. And what I mean by a miracle, all the way I see Chicago trading out of the number one overall pick in this particular draft with the need at quarterback and with the talent that is available at quarterback. If somebody tries to trade up, and we're talking about 4 first-round draft picks, I'm talking about that RG3 trade package that we saw when he was drafted to Washington back in the day. It's going to take a package like that to move up. I'm not predicting it to happen. Let me kind of put this on the big screen so y'all can kind of see. I'm not predicting that to happen. So I do have the Chicago Bears, probably the easiest pick of this draft, taking quarterback Caleb Williams out of USC. Now, this is where it gets kind of tricky when we're talking about here. The number 2 pick, we have the Washington Commanders, who obviously need a quarterback, but what direction and what type of quarterback do they want to take? We talked about this on last week's show. I think for me, it's either a debate between Drake May and Jayden Daniels. I think any hype you see around JJ McCarthy going as high as number 2 is simply that. I think it's just hype. The safe pick would be Drake May, for me, despite Jayden Daniels winning the Heisman Trophy this year, Drake May has been quarterback 2, and is not that much separation between him and Caleb Williams. That would be the pick that I would go. But, with Washington hiring Cliff Kingsbury to be the new offensive coordinator, he likes a quarterback that is very mobile. It allows him to do a lot of stuff with his spread type offense. You have a new offense there in Washington. So that may be the direction that they're going to go in this particular draft. So in this mock draft, due to the simple fact that Washington does have Cliff Kingsbury, I think it's a lot of, makes a lot of sense to draft a quarterback that fits the offense that you have. So I'm going to take Jayden Daniels at number 2. Now, this is where the draft gets kind of tricky, because you here have at number 3, you have the New England Patriots, who have needs all across the board at every single key position on both sides of the ball. This may be when we do our second mock draft next week. This position, I think, a team that is interested in moving up, and I'm namely looking at you, Minnesota Vikings, who have 2 first-round draft picks in this draft, who are a quarterback needy with the departure of Kirk Cousins. I think this is a position that they trade up. I'm not sure if New England's going to be willing to accept just the 2 first-round picks. I'm thinking it's going to take possible the 2 this year, maybe a mid-round pick this year and another mid-round pick next year to kind of get that deal done. But in this particular draft, we're not doing any trades. So with New England staying there in the number 3 spot, quarterback being the most pressing concern, considering that you traded Mac Jones, you have Zappe as the backup. You do have Jacoby Brissett, who is a veteran, who I predict will start the season, all things considered, unless the rookie just kind of blows them out of the water. And I think in this position here, I think you draft your quarterback of the future. It's time to rebuild. It's trying to restock. And what, this is a very good quarterback class to do it. When you kind of look at next year's potential, kind of light at the quarterback position. So for the New England Patriots, I'm taking Drake May at number 3. Now you have the Arizona Cardinals, who are on the clock. Obviously, Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray is the starting quarterback. So quarterback is not a pressing need. They do have needs on the defensive side of the ball, but I think number 4 is too high to draft a defensive player in this particular draft. None of those guys warrant being drafted in the top 5, and this is my personal opinion. Now you have a question here with a wide receiver being the need that can help your team the most, can help your quarterback the most, considering that a lot of the wide receivers that you already had on roster from last year are gone. You either released them or traded them away. The debate comes down to Marvin Harrison Jr. and wide receiver Malik Nabers. Marvin Harrison Jr. presumed number 1 wide receiver all through the season. Didn't test at combine, did not test at the pro day. I don't think that has hurt his draft stock, is where he's going to possibly be drafted at as the first wide receiver. But I think Malik Nabers made himself made a very strong argument with the season that he had, with the combine and the pro day numbers that he put up. Malik Neighbors gives off a vibe of a, like talking about LSU receivers, gives off the vibe of an Odell Beckham. So I don't think Arizona could go wrong if they draft Neighbors. But I think, in my opinion, based on what I've seen over the last, especially the last 2 seasons of Marvin Harrison Jr., that he is the most complete receiver available in this draft when we're talking about with the route running, the ability to make explosive plays, the ability to run the route tree. I think this is probably the best bet and the safest bet for the Arizona Cardinals if they're still drafting here at the number 4 spot. So I'm going to go ahead and slot in Marvin Harrison Jr., number 4 to the Arizona Cardinals. Now you have the Chargers on the clock here. This is another position that we'll talk about next week as a team possibly trading up. Even though wide receiver is a pressing concern, considering that you got rid of your top 2 targets and top 3 when you consider Austin Eckler running back out of the backfield. Where does Harbaugh want to go? Harbaugh taking over this organization typically likes to build his teams starting from the interior, starting in the trenches with the offensive and defensive line. This is a very good draft for offensive linemen. I'm curious to see if anybody's going to be willing to jump up. If they're not going to jump up to 3, willing to jump up to number 5 with the Chargers. I think the Chargers are hoping that a team, wink, wink, looking at you, Minnesota Vikings, are looking to move up and grab one of these quarterbacks that are still here to be drafted. But in this mock, we're going to keep it where it's at. Now the question becomes, do you take a wide receiver or do you take an offensive tackle? Considering that you have Justin Herbert, and the offensive line is not horrible. It does have some holes. You could use another tackle to add into this mix. But I think when you were taking advantage of Justin Herbert, guy you just gave a big contract to, you got rid of his top 2 wide receivers and another good wide receiving option in Austin Eckler out of the backfield. I think you got to kind of go with wide receiver at this point. Now it depends on what type of wide receiver that Harbaugh is leaning. So I think Malik Neighbors is the more talented receiver still left on the board. You do have Rome Odunze, who had a very good season out there at the University of Washington. Very good, big body receiver. Not as explosive of an athlete as a Malik Neighbors. I will say that when I break down the wide receiver class, you have Harrison 1A, you have Neighbors 1B, and a little bit off in the distance is Rome Odunze. Not that far off in the distance, but if I had to pick between Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze at the wide receiver position, it comes down to a preference. How you doing, Dr. Nikki? It comes down to a preference. I think Malik Neighbors is too good of a wide receiver option to pass up if you do not go tackle. Like I said, tackle is an option for this team. Top tackle on the board is Joe Alt, offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. We'll talk about him as I get closer to where I think he'll get picked at, as far as my opinion on him. But I'm going to take Malik Neighbors. Makes the most sense. You have a young quarterback who needs some talent out there on the outside. You drafted Quentin Johnson last year, wide receiver out of TCU. Still developing, but I think Neighbors walks in ready to assume the role of wide receiver 1, and he's that explosive of an athlete. I think it'll go a long way towards helping. I think the Chargers, with this draft being very deep on the offensive side of the ball, especially on the offensive line, you may be able to find a guy in the second round. We'll talk about that as we kind of trail on to the second round. Now you have here at number 6 the New York Giants. Giants, what do you do? What do you do? This becomes the consensus was made. Get a wide receiver. Wide receiver falls, and then Rome Odunze is available. But do I want to go out on a limb here and say this is the time that New York takes a shot, gets one of these young quarterbacks with the possibility of moving off of Daniel Jones after this season? Daniel Jones coming off an injury, big money, able to save money. You already have a rookie in-house. That's got to be the conversation if you're a Giants fan. You have J.J. McCarthy still there on the board. A lot of draft hype around him. But Rome Odunze, if you're going to have faith in You're going to have faith in Daniel Jones. I think you got to go wide receiver here. Like I said, I don't think with the addition of Brian Burns, you still have Kalen Thibodeau out there. Defensive line is not a pressing need, even though it is some talented players along the edge and on that interior of the defensive line. But I think in this position, do I want to go out on a limb? This may be, if the draft kind of breaks like this, New York may be fielding calls because I think you can get a wide receiver a little bit later on in the draft. I'm looking at Minnesota Vikings is going to be the team to kind of set the table for a lot of the draft, and we'll talk about that next week when we do our second mock draft right before the draft. Let's see. I'm gonna go with the safe pick. Take Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington, very good wide receiver. I think he walks into the door wide receiver one. They do have some talent out there in Giant Land at the wide receiver position, but none on the level of a Rome Odunze. And I think it'd be safe to take him here. Now you had the Tennessee Titans drafting here at number 7. I don't think quarterback is in question. So JJ McCarthy's not on the market. Dallas Turner, edge rusher out of Alabama, could be a way the new coaching staff wants to go as far as building up that defensive line, getting more of a pass rush. Tennessee is not one of the best pass rushing teams, even though they do have some talent on that defensive line. I'm talking about Jeffrey Simmons. I'm talking about Harold Landry. Do they go defensive lineman? But I think, with the young quarterback that you have, you brought in Calvin Ridley, gave him the big money. You still have DeAndre Hopkins on the roster. Pretty good tight end group. I like Tajay Spears, the running back. I think you got to go offensive tackle here. And, the consensus is that Joe Alt is the most NFL ready tackle. And I don't think he's the tackle with the most potential. I think that's I can't say the dude's name, Alawu Fashanu, offensive tackle out of Penn State, who could have went first round last year if he had came out, decided to stay, work on his craft. But I think right now the most NFL ready tackle available to the Tennessee Titans to draft is Joe Alt. So he is off the board at number 7. Now the Atlanta Falcons. Can go some different directions here. You do have a new head coach. You do have Kirk Cousins, who is coming off an injury, but is a very good quarterback by league standards. I'm not a fan of saying Kirk Cousins is going to take you to the top. But when we talked about the Atlanta Falcons last year, for you Falcons fans that do listen, you guys know as long as Desmond Ridder was your starter, I was not picking y'all. But you bring in Kirk Cousins, I think that opens up the game for Kyle Pitts to be more productive this year. Drake London to kind of showcase what he's able to do as a former first round pick. And I think the addition of Kirk Cousins also opens up the field more for Bijan Robinson, because you can't just load up and have eight guys in the box. I think that the offensive side of the ball is not the direction I see the Atlanta Falcons going. And it comes down to, what do you want to do? I think edge rusher is the most pressing need. Atlanta traditionally has had a problem with generating the pass rush. Is typically in the bottom half as far as sack totals year after year after year. They've tried guys. They got Arnold Ebiketie out there. You do could go the interior of the defensive line. You guys are getting up there in age. Calais Campbell, Grady Jarrett. But I think you add an edge rusher. Now, Dallas Turner, when we consider the edge rushers that are possibly going in the first round, talking about him, talking about Jared Verse, and I'm talking about Latu out of UCLA. The most physically gifted of the trio is Dallas Turner. Most explosive athlete out of the group is Dallas Turner. Now, when you look at just the numbers, just the raw numbers on who produced in college the best, you have to look at UCLA's Latu. I think what's going to stop him from being drafted here at the number 8 position by the Atlanta Falcons is his injury history. And I think that's going to cause him to slide. But if he was 100% healthy, I think you might be seriously taking Latu here at number 8. But I think Atlanta is going to go for the big play potential. That with the guy with the higher ceiling and the more explosive athlete in Dallas Turner. So Atlanta Falcons, congratulations, you drafted Dallas Turner. Now you have the Chicago Bears, who are back here on the board at the number 9 pick. This is their own number 9 pick. what direction do they want to go? You bring in Keenan Allen, you have DJ Moore, you drafted Caleb Williams first, you have DeAndre Swift at the running back position. Do you go offense again here? Even though Keenan Allen is a short-term, better for lack of better terms, of a short-term rental for this season, do you go back to the well and look at offense? I think if Rome Odunze was here at the wide receiver position, if he was still available here to pick at number 9, I think that might be a direction Chicago can go with the long-term plan in place. But I think defense is the better option for the Chicago Bears. I think you got to go get you a pass rusher to team up with Montez Sweat, who you traded for last year. Sweat had a very good year. I think you team him up with the part that goes a long way towards helping the Chicago Bears defense, who was kind of, middle of the road over the last couple of seasons. Had that same question again that you had at number 8 with the Atlanta Falcons, with Turner being off the board. Who do you go as far as your edge rusher? Do you go Jared Verse, who's a very good pass rusher, also very good in run defense, or do you go with Latu, the guy who has produced the best out of all the guys that are available in the draft? I think you go with Verse, just for the simple fact you don't need him to be a pure rush in. I think he's a little bit more balanced than Latu, but I think Latu is a very good player. I could see him going here to the Chicago Bears at number 9. Nothing will help the Bears. I forgot to do this just in case anybody wanted to chime in on this particular mock draft we doing tonight. Okay, did I put it in there? Yeah, okay, it's in there. All right, back to the mock. I'm gonna go with Jared Verse. I do like Latu. I think Latu, if he was 100% healthy, I think he would have been drafted ahead of Verse and Turner. But I think his injury history is going to kind of cause him to slide in this draft. Latu, I think, is the most NFL ready as far as his pass rush moves, but I think the injury history is going to scare teams. And here at number 9, I see them going with Jared Verse. So Jared Verse is off the clock to the Chicago Bears at number 9. Do you have the New York Jets? Most of consensus drafts have the Jets taking possibly Brock Bowers, but I think this is maybe a position where it gets kind of tricky for the Jets. You did bring in Tyron Smith. You did bring in Morgan Moses and John Simpson. You do have an aging group. You did bring in new pieces along that offensive line to possibly keep Aaron Rodgers up and open up some lanes for Breece Hall, but offensive line I think is worth taking here in the immediate future and in the long term. I know I like Tyron Smith when he's available to be on the field, but trust me, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I know this guy is not going to make it through a whole season. If you're banking on him making it through all 17 games, you're smoking dope. But do I, want to pass on a talent like Brock Bowers? Brock Bowers is a very talented tight end, clear cut number 1 tight end in this draft. Has a similar, not necessarily exact, but has a very similar athletic profile to former Georgia tight end Kyle Pitts. I think this is going to be a preference pick. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a lot of input as far as what direction this team takes with this pick. I don't think they need any help on the defensive side of the ball, even though there's some good players on the defensive side of the ball that's available. But I think if I'm drafting for the Jets, I'm going tackle. Now the question becomes who you want to tackle. Do you want to take Fuaga, offensive tackle out of Oregon State, who some say could transition and be kicked into guard? That might be an option for the Jets. I think he'd be an upgraded at either guard position for them and could step in if injuries arise at the tackle position. But I think athletically, Fashanu just I'd be hard pressed to kind of pass on him, even though he doesn't have the position of versatility for Argo. But I think he's a better prospect if he pans out. And with the NFL draft, it's always an if with these guys. It's always an if. So I'm gonna take Fashanu here. to the Jets at number 10. Now, like I said, in this draft, nobody's trading up. Minnesota Vikings sitting here with 2 first-round picks. I think, they're going to be one of those teams that be looking to move up. I think the easiest pick here at this position is quarterback. I think they like J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is a very good prospect. He didn't put up the wild numbers at Michigan, but, the team's offense and team style of play did not require him to be putting up 300-400-yard games like some of the other quarterback prospects that have been drafted ahead of him. So not going to be too worried with this one. J.J. McCarthy comes off the board. Very easy pick for the Minnesota Vikings at number 11. That puts the Denver Broncos on the clock. Do you take a shot at a Michael Penix Jr., who is still quarterback one that's still left that could possibly be drafted? Do you take him, or do you go in a very different direction? Do you fill in some of the other needs of this team? I don't think wide receiver is an option. I think defense. Do you feel like you need to have help in the secondary, or do you feel like you need help on the interior? I think secondary is okay. You still have PS2 still out there balling out in that secondary. You do have to replace Justin Simmons, safety that you let go. I think it's too high to be drafting a safety, but this is a very, very tricky spot for head coach Sean Payton. Do you go get a quarterback? Do you kind of reach a little bit and take a Michael Penix? Because you're hoping that he may be around later on in the draft, and that's a hope. You do have the backup option of taking a Bo Nix if he's available with your next pick. But I think this team is going to go defense for me, and I think defensive line is probably the way to go. I don't see them drafting a lot to who is the best pass rusher, but I do like Byron Murphy, interior defensive lineman who has a very close athletic, and I would say this close enough athletic profile to our former Ram defensive tackle Aaron Donald. I got them taking Byron Murphy to add to that defense with the Broncos. Get focus in more on that side. Hope that a quarterback falls to them a little bit later in the draft. You had the Vegas Raiders sitting here at 13, and the question, kind of the same with Denver. Like, do you go quarterback? Do you go quarterback, or do you go defense? With Antonio Pierce, with the turnaround of that team last year when he took over as head coach. First full year coaching this team. I think he wants guys that fit his identity, that fits his mindset. I like Michael Penix Jr. I'm not sure I would be drafting him here at number 13. Now, it's a possibility that the Raiders take a shot, go ahead and take him, even though I think they have very good short-term options in Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, who started a bulk of the year last year with the Colts. I think they go cornerback. In the top 2 cornerbacks on the board, Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama, Roll Tide, and presumed number 1 cornerback option, Quinyon Mitchell, very good, very athletic cornerback out of University of Toledo. I'm gonna pick Mitchell over Arnold just for the simple fact I think he has a stronger athletic profile, and they grade well, comparable to each other when we're talking about cover skills. Give me a second. Excuse me, had to give me a little bit of water. Brother is up here running his mouth. So I'm gonna take Quinyon Mitchell here. I think Quinyon Mitchell fits in with the culture that they're trying to have out there in Vegas, and he's a very good cornerback option. I think that it improves the defense. I think that allows the pass rush to be even stronger this year. Nothing will help the Falcons. I forgot Triggs is a Falcon fan. My bad, bro. My bad. All right. Pick number 14, New Orleans Saints. Obviously, I think they're going to take Fuaga here with the concerns that they have along both tackle positions. Trevor Penning was getting killed last year, and Ryan Ramczyk, we don't know what his knee looks like. Still no answer on that. I think you take Fuaga. If those guys kind of pan out as far as the injuries and their style of play, I think you can transition to Fuaga to being a very good guard, but I think he has potential to start at tackle. So I'm taking him there at number 14. Then you have the Indianapolis Colts on the board. I think this is a very interesting spot because you have Brock Bowers sitting here, tight end, who I think will blend in well um, with the scheme. That the head coach Shane Steichen likes to run. You have the return of Anthony Richardson. Why not get him a very athletic safety valve and Brock Bowers? But you still have a cornerback such as a Terrion Arnold who could help and improve the back end of this defense, who does need a little bit of help as far as talent is concerned. What means the most to you, Colts fans? What means the most to you? Is it get another offensive weapon? I mean, it's a possibility this team could draft a wide receiver. I mean, Brian Thomas is on the board. What's the other young boy's name? Eddie Mitchell, wide receiver out of Texas. Xavier Worthy could be an option later on in the draft. Do you wait and take a wide receiver option later on in the draft? When you kind of look at what's still here, I'm gonna go Brock Bowers. I think Brock Bowers doesn't fall any lower than 15. I think he'd be the perfect fit and help with the maturation process of Anthony Richardson, who will be starting. Hopefully he'll make it through the whole season this year. But having him as a safety value did bring back your wide receiver run Michael Pittman this offseason. So I'm looking at Brock Bowers here at number 15. Now you have number 16. This is the start of the post Pete Carroll era, who stepped down as head coach. Wide receiver options are available, but I don't think offense is going to be the way to go, even though they might be looking to add a offensive lineman at some point early in this draft. When you talk about the Seahawks, I think you got to look at defense. Particularly on the back end of the defense. I do like some of the prospects that they have as far as the edge rusher. So I don't think Latu, who we've talked about throughout this show, I don't think he is the pick here. I think you're going to go. Defense. I think the best defensive player is still available and still on the board that fills a position of need for the Seahawks, considering how porous secondary play was a little bit last year. They get Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. I think he goes here to the Seahawks, fixed right on in. I think that'd be a very good pick. Then now you have the Jacksonville Jaguars. What do they do? I don't think I think they have receiving options, even with losing Calvin Ridley. I think they still have pretty good receiver options. They did bring over Gabe Davis, who had a very good run with the Buffalo Bills. You still have Christian Kirk on the roster, so I don't think wide receiver is the pick here. It is some pretty good offensive lineman prospects if you want to go that direction as far as improving pass protection for Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that'd be the direction I go, especially with the first round pick. I'm trying to get more of a pass rush now. What kind of rush are you trying to get? You still have Latu, who is sitting here available, does have his injury concerns. Where's the other young man that not next? Hold on. Sorry, y'all. This is what's that defensive tackle's name? Okay, I'm using this all wrong. Okay. Defensive lineman. Here we go. You do have Newton out of Illinois, very touted, highly touted prospect coming into this year. They had a bit of a down year as far as numbers are concerned, but it was talk of him coming into this past season as possibly being a top 10 pick. Do you take him here at number 17 if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars? I'm going to go yes. I'm going to go yes. I say the interior, the defensive line. You did bring back Josh Allen on the big money, so outside pass rush, it's not the most pressing need for the Jacksonville Jaguars at this time. I like Newton. I like Newton. Now, moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals. I might just have to get through the first round. I'm tired. Cincinnati Bengals sitting here at number 18. Obviously, offensive tackle has to be the pick here with the concerns, the injury concerns of Joe Burrow, the amount of times he's been hit in his career. I think you got to go offensive lineman here. Now, the top two offensive linemen still on the board. You have Fatanu, tackle out of Washington, J.C. Latham, tackle out of Alabama, Roll Tide. As the top two prospects, I think J.C. Latham could step in and possibly be starting left tackle. They do have a left tackle in place. How much you like them depends on who you ask. Another offensive tackle guy you could possibly be looking at is Amarius Mims, very, very big offensive tackle out of Georgia. Primarily started at right tackle, but according to reports, split time in practice learning left tackle and right tackle. Very, very big mobile guy. I'm going to go. It's going to go tackle. I think they take J.C. Latham. I think he's the most sound out of the three still left. Mims, started at right tackle. Like I said, spent time in practice, but practice and actual playing is two different things. I do think somebody's going to pick him up in the first round, but I don't think he'd be here to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now you have the Los Angeles Rams here. Who, with the sudden retirement of Aaron Donald, need another pass rusher. I think this is the spot I have Latu being drafted to. I think he kind of fits. He joins in with Byron Young, creates a very dynamic duo as far as outside pass rush for this team. I like that for them. So I'm going to take Latu here to the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Quarterback no longer in need. Wide receiver, maybe an option here when we consider who's still left on the board. You have Brian Thomas still left on the board. Very good wide receiver out of LSU. You have Anon Mitchell still here. Our wide receiver, a lot of people, it rose up a lot of draft boards. Labe McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia, very good runner. Reminds a lot of people of a Cooper Kupp. You have Xavier Worthy, who set the 40 time. At the combine. Wide receiver still a very deep position here, but I don't think this is the direction that Pittsburgh Steelers go. I think they're going to go secondary. Find a guy that can team up with a Joey Porter on the outside. Now you have some very good, interesting cornerback options still left. You have Cooper DeJean, cornerback out of Iowa. More of a zone, reminds me of, as far as his skill set, reminds me of Minkah Fitzpatrick, who they already have on roster. A guy who can kind of move around the field, be more of a chess piece, not necessarily a lockdown man corner. You have Nate Wiggins, probably the best cover corner still left at this point in the draft, but is a little bit on the smallish side. I think he's about $175. I don't know if he's put on weight since the combine, but he's just on the smaller side. Is not known as a tackler. So I think that might be a point of contention for the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting. I think then you have Kool-Aid McKinstry, who came into last season, was looked at as a surefire pick. Didn't have the best year. Did have some slight injury concerns as far as that. But I'm gonna go this. I think Cooper DeJean is the pick here for his position of versatility. For Pittsburgh, you brought in Joey Porter Jr. last year. You drafted him in the first round. Add a Cooper DeJean to that rotation, a guy who can line up in the slot if need be, can play safety if need be. You don't really have to sub them out when you go to the smaller packages, your dime and your dollar packages. So I like that for them. Miami Dolphins, for me, obviously, is going to be our offensive lineman. Now, do you go interior of the offensive line or you do go offensive tackle? I think you got to start planning for a future without Teron Armstead. You do have some very good tackle prospects still left on the board. And when you look at the interior, the top two prospects on the interior, when we're talking about interior, guys who can play guard and who can play center. You got Graham Barton, offensive lineman out of Duke. You have Jackson Powers Johnson, another offensive lineman out of Oregon. If you know, skill wise, I would have took these guys a butt ahead of a couple of these tackles. But interior offensive lineman is not as valued as the offensive tackle position is in the NFL. But for draft purposes, I think Miami said we're going to run the dice with the tackles that we have, and I think they're going to take Graham Barton. I think they're going to take Graham Barton to shore up the interior of that offensive line. Very good pass protector, very good run blocker. Also, I think this is one of the around this areas where he comes off the board, and I think he comes off the board to Miami. Philadelphia Eagles. Where do you go? Where do you go? Where do you go? I mean, there's some interesting prospects still on the board. Do you go tackle? With the retirement of Lane Johnson, do you go another interior, also offensive lineman? Do you go Jackson Powers Johnson to replace Jason Kelsey, who also retired? Do you go cornerback? I mean, you have Nate Wiggins there, have Kool-Aid McKinstry here. I don't think wide receiver, even though Brian Thomas is still on the board here. I don't think wide receiver is the pick here, unless you Eagles fans know something that I don't. I'm not taking a wide receiver here. I think you're either going to go interior or tackle if you're going to go offensive lineman here. But I think this team is going to take a cornerback, considering how bad this secondary played last year. I think they're going to take Nate Wiggins, cornerback out of Clemson. I think he feels the most pressing need. And like I've been saying, this is a very good draft as far as offensive linemen are concerned. I think they'll be able to get one a little bit later in the draft. Minnesota Vikings back on the clock here. Back on the clock here with their second first round pick. Where do you go? Where do you go? Still some good offensive tackles on the board. Still some wide receiver options. I think this team is going to go edge rusher. You did bring in Jonathan Gennard, but you did get rid of Danielle Hunter. I'm gonna go Chop Robinson, edge rusher, out of Penn State. Did very well as far as grading at the combine. Kind of feels a need. Improve the defense. I don't think wide receiver you need when you still have Justin Jefferson. You still have Jordan Addison. I don't think wide receivers need, even though still some prospects here. Now we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, let's kind of look at the board here. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm looking at a couple of guys here at this position. I'm looking at Jackson Powers Johnson. I think we need help on the interior, but I think on the offensive line, you might want to look at a tackle. Did lose Tyron Smith. I do like some of the pieces that we already had to kind of have in place, but Amarius Mims, this screams Cowboy to me. I think Amarius Mims doesn't get past them, but he may. I think the smart decision is Jackson Powers Johnson due to the versatility, ability to play guard and center. I think that'll allow them to kick out Tyler Smith to the tackle. I'm going to go Jackson Powers Johnson here, interior offensive lineman. I know Jerry, if he was running this draft, Mims would have been the guy. Hell, he might have took a wide receiver. But that's neither here nor there. I think Mims doesn't drop any further than this. I think he goes right here to the Green Bay Packers, who moved on from David Bakhtiari, bring in Mims to help protect Jordan Love in the long term. Tampa Bay Buccaneers can go several different directions here. I think defense is the more pressing need, but is it a guy here that you're willing to kind of move up your board to take? I think cornerback may be the most pressing needs, considering the departures that they have. The only guy you had starting last year still the cornerback is Jamal Dean. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry goes off the board here to Tampa Bay. I think that's a very good spot for him. Very good pick. I think his style of play fits in what they like to do on the defensive side of the ball. There, Arizona Cardinals back on the clock here with another first round pick. I think this is a luxury. type pick. This might be one of those positions where I see a team, possibly trying to move up back into the first round of this draft to get one of these prospects. I think Fatanu doesn't fall any further. He may go a lot earlier than that, but this is my mock draft. It is what it is. I got him going there to help protect Kenneth Murray. I think Kenneth Murray will be satisfied with getting a possible top 15 type tackle, and then the number one wide receiver. Buffalo Bills sitting here on the clock with the trading of Stephon Diggs. I think wide receivers got to be the play here, and then the best one still available to me is Brian Thomas Jr. Not that it's anything wrong with A9 Mitchell, but I think I think Thomas Jr. is a much better prospect now, and I think it's much more better prospect long term. Detroit Lions sitting here, not used to the Detroit Lions picking this late in the draft. Where do you go? It's one of those teams that's in a luxury position. I don't think they need any help along the offensive line, so I don't think that'll be a thing to do. I think wide receiver could be an option here. I think A9 Mitchell could be the guy here to kind of team up. I'm not sure what I'm getting from Jameson Williams. I'm not sure what I'm getting from him on a game-to-game basis. I know what I'm getting from Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I think you add. I think they're going to lean in heavy to the offense. And right now, when I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball, when I'm looking at the prospects that are left, that I feel like I would be comfortable drafting possibly in the first round, none of these guys kind of warrant that. Possibly the only guy I could see possibly going to this position on the defensive side of the ball, if he's still available here. Where is he at? Was it Braden Frisk, defensive lineman out of Florida State, who tested very, very, very well at the combine, and it kind of fits the mindset of the head coach. I think. Do I want to draft him here? I think this, maybe a position Detroit looks to trade back. And my draft, they don't trade back, so I have been taking A9 Mitchell, wide receiver here. Just add more weapons for Jared Goff, and really try to, put pressure on teams. And I think that helps Amon-Ra St. Brown if he kind of pans out. I like to get a new coach. I'm pretty sure you would, Miss Murphy. I'm pretty sure you would. Where we at here? I'm gonna do the first round. I'm tired. Baltimore sitting here. You bring in Derrick Henry, wide receiver, could be a option here. Traditionally, they don't draft wide receivers that well, even though I do like Zay Flowers potential, but this is not a team that is drafted very well. But Baltimore is one of those teams that have an abundance of riches, can go a lot of different directions here. As far as what direction they want to go to placing long term, I think with some of the issues that they had along the offensive line, I think Tyler Guyton here, offensive tackle of Oklahoma, will probably be the pick here. It sounds like a traditional Baltimore Ravens pick. He kind of feels a need, like I said, Ronnie Stanley with some of the injury concerns that he's had. I think this is, add another guy into that rotation, could possibly be a long time starter. Guyton does have positional flexibility, could be kicked in the guard. Another big body, Jesus Christ, just the rich get richer. Speaking of rich getting richer, you had a San Francisco 49ers sitting here at number 31. Obviously, quarterback is not in play. I don't think wide receiver is in play unless they're trying to do something with Brandon Ayuk. I do think edge and cornerback are the position of needs at this point of the draft for the San Francisco 49ers. You have Darius Robinson here sitting here, edge rush out of the University of Missouri. You have Rexhaw, also cornerback from Missouri. I don't think linebacker is a thing, but I think Braden Fisk, I talked about him with the last pick, could be the pick here. But I'm going to go defensive lineman here with the departure of Chase Young. Get another guy opposite of Bosa. I think Darius Robinson gets drafted right here for the San Francisco 49ers. And the last pick for tonight's mock draft. Jesus, I ain't never realized I've been on this long. Kansas City Chiefs, I think wide receivers got to be the pick here. And the most, I like Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon. I like Keon Coleman wide receiver out of Florida State, but I think the guy that this screams Kansas City Chiefs to me is Xavier Worthy, guy who set the record for the fastest 40. I think he gets drafted here by the Kansas City Chiefs, and that concludes. Matter of fact, this is what we'll do. We'll instead of just starting over, what we'll do is next Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday we'll go ahead and we'll do the second round of the draft. We'll do the second round if I can remember. If not, then it is what it is. All right, let me get my behind up out of here. It has been a long day, long night, long show. Thank you everybody for coming out, taking the time to participate, tune in, and all the other good stuff. Y'all know how I do. Was what you old man Braun. Look, Gator girl, I'm gonna post the highlight. I was watching the game, but I said I need to get my show. I'm trying to stay on a regular routine, a regular schedule. But trust me, I've been peeking in. Before I kind of started the show, I knew it was tied up in the first half. Okay, we 83-70, so that means we win tonight. We got Denver. We got Denver. I mean, you ain't no ducking no smoke this year, man. Not in the Western Conference. Ain't no ducking no smoke. So if we hold on, we win. We get Denver. But anyway, let me get my behind up out of here, man. Thank y'all for taking the time out to listen to little old me. Make sure you tune in Thursday. We'll be talking about kind of the fallout from the play-in games that are happening tonight and tomorrow night, and we'll do that on Thursday. Enjoy for the phrase that pays over here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.